there's people on the internet who don't like us. Do you consider them enemies?
Yes.
You do?
No, I'm just kidding.
What's up, you guys? Well, back to school, but don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Julyssa, and of course, I am here with the boys, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up?
And how y'all doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I thought we were gonna sing. No,
Oh, I didn't know.
you said that last week.
That was just for the episode last week.
Oh, okay, my
Yeah.
bad, my bad. Julie, how are you doing?
I'm all right.
You're right. Why just all right?
Just all right.
Just all right. Just chilling
Mm-hmm.
like a villain. I like your shirt. What is it, Jordan?
I don't know.
You don't know? You don't know what your shirt is?
Nope.
Why not?
I don't know.
What are you wearing?
A shirt?
And who is it on?
Guess.
Looks like it says Jordan,
So there you go.
but I don't remember Jordan having that hairstyle.
Well, whose hairstyle do you see?
That could be a lot of players. I actually can't see. I generally can't see who that is. Wait, I think I see a little guy in the middle. Is that James Harden?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
There you go.
Or it could have been LeBron James. Right? Do you remember when LeBron James?
LeBron. I would never wear LeBron, bro.
I know she hates LeBron.
But why? What did he do to you personally?
He just annoyed me.
He just annoys you? That's got to be like some form of like.
Mm-hmm.
Never
What are you
mind.
gonna say?
Never mind. But how are you guys doing? How are you doing, Brendan?
Doing pretty good.
Doing pretty good.
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
Who are you mimicking?
No one. You. Yeah. So what do we have for today, guys? No more fighting on camera.
No more fighting on camera. Are we fighting to begin with?
Come on, guys.
know.
What do we have?
I know,
I didn't feel like we were fighting.
I don't get why you're accusing us of something that's not true,
Oh
Brandon.
my god.
I know. Brandon always trying to start some shit,
For
bro.
real.
Oh my god.
But I guess to go right into the episode, did you guys hear that Mexico is suing Google?
No, I didn't hear about this.
I did.
Damn, it's because Julie's more woke than
That's
you, bro.
cool. What's your take on it?
I think Mexico should win this lawsuit.
Yeah.
And what do you think, brother? Rebuttal what she just said.
I don't have a rebuttal. I wonder how that works. I'm not familiar with
How does a
law.
country sue somebody?
Yeah, and who enforces it? Because it's like another country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Let me see. Let me read some of this article by the BBC. Shout out to the BBC. Mexico sues Google over Gulf of America name change. So Mexico is suing Google for ignoring repeated requests not to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America for U.S. users on its map service. Claudia Scheinbaum? Is that how you say it?
Who? What?
Claudia Scheinbaum? Is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
Shein? Okay. The Mexican president did not say whether the lawsuit has been filed. Google did not respond to BBC's request for comment. On Thursday, the Republican-led House of Representatives voted to officially rename the Gulf for federal agencies. U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on his first day in office in January, calling for the body of water to be renamed, arguing the change was justified because the U.S. does most of the work there and it's ours.
Interesting.
Is that valid? What did you guys think of, like, in general? Did we ever talk about this? About the Gulf
About
of
the Gulf
America?
of America?
Maybe we, like, breezed over it.
I think we talked. Maybe we talked about it when he was proposing it, or I don't know. I don't recall if we did or not. But I think it's I don't know.
It's, once again, the white man tries to erase the history of brown people.
Yeah, it just feels like erasure. I don't really like that. I also don't like everybody's attitude about it. How I feel like there's two camps. You're either like completely agree with it for some weird reason, or people think, oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's Trump, the epic troll.
It's kind of just like a random, I don't know. Like, you think there'd be more important issues
Yeah,
than, I
Right.
guess, Gulf of America.
yeah.
What do you think, Julie?
I mean, what I heard about it was just that they were just suing because they didn't tell them beforehand that they were going to change the name. So nobody was, like, aware about it. So I thought at least that part was, like, yeah, that's why they sued them. Because, like, they didn't tell them. So that's all I can think of.
But what do you think about the name change, like, of Gulf of America?
I think it's pretty dumb for them to I guess, call it Gulf of America, but I also am like, why was it even called Gulf of Mexico?
Mm-hmm. I guess
So,
that's true.
I don't know. But I'm also like, because I've been used to just hearing Gulf of Mexico, it is just weird that it's called Gulf of America. Which is also like with what you guys are saying, like they're just erasing a lot of shit, which is annoying because it's like, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Like what America, I guess, is trying to do and like take over because it's more just like, it's really stupid, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says the president of Mexico wrote a letter to Google in January asking the firm to reconsider its decision to rename the Gulf of Mexico for U.S. users. The following month, she threatened legal action. At the time, Google said it made the change as part of a long-standing practice of following name changes when updated by official government sources. It said the Gulf, which is bordered by the U.S., Cuba, and Mexico, would not be changed for people using the app in Mexico, and users elsewhere in the world will see the label Gulf of Mexico, and then in what is it, quotation? No, it's, brackets. What do you call those? The little lines.
Brackets.
Gulf of Mexico bracket Gulf of America. So that's basically how the rest of the world sees it. We only see Gulf of America. I think if I pulled it up right now, we did last time, and it said Gulf of America. It doesn't say like
iPhone,
bracket.
right?
Yeah. The Associated Press new agency refusal to use the Gulf of America name led to a months-long conflict with the White House, which restricted the AP's access to certain events. Bro, is it really that serious?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
They restricted them from being able to be in certain events just because they wouldn't respect it. It just feels very childish. A federal judge ordered the White House in April to stop sidelining the outlet. Oh, wow. The judicial branch had to get involved? That's crazy. Trump hinted on Wednesday that he may recommend changing the way the U.S. refers to another body of water. Huh. Wonder what he's hinting at. During an upcoming visit to Saudi Arabia, he plans to announce that the U.S. will henceforth refer to the Persian Gulf as the Arabian Gulf or the Gulf of Arabia, AP reported. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas has responded by saying he hopes the absurd rumors are no more than a disinformation campaign, that such a move would bring the wrath of all Iranians.
Jeez.
Whoa.
I think it's I don't know, what do you call it when I guess the sum of all things. What does he want? He wants Greenland. He wants Canada, and he changed it to Gulf of America. I think that there's like this colonial mindset that he has that I find disturbing and strange, and I just don't like that.
No, yeah.
It also just feels like he's just trying to make people mad.
Yeah.
He's rage baiting the country?
Pretty much, yeah.
Or the world, more like it, right?
I mean, I feel like everything that he's doing is just very offensive to people.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it just seems like the way he just goes around and I don't know, he knows what to say, which seems like he's trying to, I don't know what his goal is to do, but it just seems like he's just poking them. Like he's trying to make fun of them as well, of like, I have all this power as well to do all this.
As Mexicans, do you think Mexicans are going to take this lightly? Do you think any Mexican Americans are going to call it the Gulf of America?
Probably not. I can't imagine.
I don't know, but 60% of Mexicans voted for Trump, so at this point, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Is it 60%? I
have no idea.
I think that's what people say, but it could be misinformation.
It could be.
It could be, but it was a
I thought you
large
meant
portion.
Mexicans like in Mexico.
I know, right? I guess I gotta clarify.
Yeah.
I meant Mexican Americans more like it. I wonder if they're gonna call it the Gulf of America. Did you see that there's a WWE wrestler where he says he's an American, but he's doing like a luchador gimmick, and he says that he hails from the Gulf of America.
Oh,
Did you see that?
That's weird.
People say that it's the same thing. He's rage baiting on purpose because he's like a bad guy. He's a heel.
Oh,
They say that he's doing it on purpose.
yeah.
Do you think they should be allowed to do that though?
Should they be allowed to? I don't know. It has brought up controversy. People are kind of I've seen people feel a certain type of way negatively towards it. So,
But you don't think it brings harm?
I think it does. I mean,
Some people think that they actually believe that. Like, people don't see them as characters. People actually see them as real people.
I guess like to move it to like a little bit more of the conceptual of like satirical. Like, let's say it's satirical, right? Like, let's say the wrestler is doing it satirical, which is what some people are saying in his defense. Does like being satirical cause harm? Like, you know how like for an example, South Park has the character Eric Cartman, who is a bigot and a racist and like all the isms you could think of. Is that actually harmful, or is there some benefit into it because it's satirical?
That's a good question.
You don't
Uh,
think it's always just harmful though? I think it's always just harmful
I don't
because they make
know.
it seem like it's okay, even if they're trying to say like, "Oh, we're not being serious," but some people, especially nowadays, are really dumb, so they're just like they take it as like, see,
On
he's allowed to
face
say it,
value.
so like it's okay for me to say it.
Yeah, because the same, I guess, conversation strikes up with the boys about how there's the boys had a big conservative, like, right leaning fan base, but they don't know that in the show they're being made fun of. It's just satirical. So I guess in a way, the point of being satirical is supposed to be a benefit. It's supposed to kind of show the absurdity and the ridiculousness of
Yeah.
like these concepts and these people in real life. Like Eric Carmen, you watch the show and you're like, wow, this is like a terrible person, and it goes to show you that people who are like him are terrible people.
Yeah.
And the boys, the same thing. Like you get to see that all these superheroes are actually bad people who work in the government, are actually freaks, and should nowhere near have this power. Like they're
Yeah.
clearly evil. But like Julie's saying, right? Some people kind of flies over their head, and they just see it as like, ah, yes, like
Yeah.
the world is a reflection of me.
Yeah.
Or I mean, sometimes even because the writers are the ones who make them that way. Sometimes it eventually comes out that the writers are actually those people who believe in those things.
I guess it's hard. Because I mean, satire in and of itself is supposed to be kind of self-aware, right?
Mm.
So I I mean I guess yeah, you can't really know if the writers themselves believe in those ideologies. Cuz I guess you can, I guess in your own experience, would you create a character that is like everything that you despise but is like a complete loser and unlovable, unfunny, and everybody like hates that character in a show? Do you think that there's any benefit to having that?
Probably not, because I feel like I wouldn't want to surround myself in something like that.
No.
No.
What do you think, Brandon?
It's a good question. I feel like I think satire has a place in the world. You know, I agree with it. I think, however, there's a rise in anti-intellectualism, so I don't think satire is hitting the mark anymore. I don't
Okay,
think it's
that's
I
valid.
don't think it's
Yeah.
the fault of
Very well said.
satire. I just don't think a lot of people are adept at reading it anymore. Like how you mentioned the boys, I feel like a lot of people don't get or understand that the boys is satirical, and it's supposed to be making fun of the people that are like that. But I rarely ever see anybody ever see it work on anybody. I still see a lot of people glorifying those characters and being like, "That's literally me," you know. So I think maybe right. I think satire works if you're able to digest the satire.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I get you. Yeah.
I guess in the current climate, it's a bit tough right now.
I wonder what an English teacher would say.
Who
'Cause-
knows?
Because I think satire is a literary device,
Yeah.
right? So I wonder what an English teacher would say. I wonder what their response would be.
Do you think it's also because it's being used a lot now?
Satire.
Yeah.
Being-
I think
That's why people can't like pick what's satire and what's actually like.
yes, to a degree. I think that not only is it being used a lot nowadays, I think that it's also being used as a cover up and a defense when something is just offensive.
Yeah.
Like if people get offended by something you're saying, you could just be like, "It's satirical. It's just it's a self-aware. It's a joke in and of itself. You can't be
Mm.
upset,
Mm.
right? It's like a joke."
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is too. Is I think a lot of people use it in defense. Like, a comedian will go up and do a roast, and they'll say something that's like racist or something, and they're like, "I'm being satirical. I'm playing a racist guy." And it's like, no, you're just being racist, and you're using this. You're using the defensive satire to kind of hide behind that
Mm.
and make sure you don't get in trouble for whatever you said. So I think that's what it is too,
A
right?
lot of Schrodinger's
Douchebag.
satire.
I
Oh.
hate that. Don't fucking say that.
Why do you hate that so much?
It just sounded just real life story of when you told me it happened. It just sounded really pretentious.
Yeah, I agree. I think satire becomes convoluted, but I also think there's a lot of anti-intellectualism now,
For sure.
and I think a lot of people just goes over their heads. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is it not? I don't know if that's a tough answer. You know.
Yeah, it is a tough answer. I guess it'll be a philosophical conversation for
Yeah.
when people look back on this era and be like, was satire a good tool or a tool of destruction?
Yeah.
The atom bomb, satire. Satire is the atom bomb.
Yeah.
But I guess moving it more back to Mexico and the Gulf of Mexico. I was about to say the Gulf of America.
Uh-huh.
I was about to get canceled right now. But Mexico argues that the Gulf of America should only apply to the part of Gulf over the United States continental shelf. So they're saying let's share it.
The part that's in the United States.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I guess that's basically what they're saying. Isn't it like mainly in Mexico though? Let me see. Now I gotta pull up a picture.
It's right there, no? It's
Oh, yeah.
The
But I need the full thing because it doesn't show Mexico. Because I want to see So it would go like.
It takes Mexico
it'd be
entirely,
like,
no?
it'd be like the edge of Texas to Florida.
Yeah.
And then it takes majority of Mexico, no?
Does
Yeah.
it? Yeah, majority is Mexico.
Majority is Mexico. It's like kind of like a.
But she's saying like cut it right
Yeah.
there.
It's kind of like seahorse shaped.
From
Yeah.
where like Texas ends.
Yeah,
From
the
where
point of
like if you drew a line from Texas to the end of Florida.
they'd say that they would call that Gulf of America, and the rest they can call Gulf of Mexico. They're trying to compromise.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's such a-
now they want to share.
That's just so funny. I know, right? It's just so funny that like this is really what's happening. We really live in an era like this. Has dumb shit like this always happened? Did in the
Probably.
80s or
Probably,
40s?
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
They just fought over names.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think it's just colonialism. I think it's just a lot of colonialism in the world right now. I think it's, you know what I was thinking about too with this, and
What's
how a lot of people will just kind of say like he's just trolling or it's supposed to be funny. I think it's crazy the like switch that happened. Maybe there wasn't a switch. I feel like there was, at least in mainstream media or in society, where everything just switched. Where being conservative is awesome. Like it's like the mainstream thing to be. I don't know, like I feel like celebrities, companies, politicians, obviously, everybody's just suddenly like conservative's the way to be. And you know, I get it with like whoever the president is, there's kind of like a pendulum swing, but this one was like crazy to me. Like how quickly it all like how everybody just became anti-LGBT, how everybody just will openly make fun of that. Because I feel like a character like that, like the Gulf of America character,
Yeah.
I think that could have happened in wrestling in like the 90s. But if like in like 2020-ish or like a little bit before that, I don't think that wrestler would have been allowed. I'm not saying not allowed by WWE, but I feel like there would have been a bigger outrage in the wrestling community. You know what I mean?
No, I
So-
understand. Yeah, I think it's weird. It was almost like a campaign, but I also think it was like the mass awareness of. Have you ever seen that article that came out that a majority of people who consider themselves woke are also? I think statistically, you're more likely to be more depressed the more woke you are. It was some shit, and I was reading like people's like what is it?
Think piece.
Think pieces.
Yeah.
And people were saying like, well, yeah, obviously, right? Because when you're woke, like you're aware of all the like injustices, prejudices, like you're aware of all the things that are negative in the world. And when you're not, it's like I said, woke. You're basically asleep. It's kind of like this ignorance that you're comfortable with. And I think that people used to think that to be woke and to be like left leaning was as simple as like, oh, I don't see color or I don't judge people based on like how they live their life. But I think that's kind of like an old mantra, and nowadays it's to even say that like I don't see color. It's deeper than that. If anything, you should because you have to understand that everybody comes from privileges, and some people are born with more advantages than other people, right? So I think that concept is just more complex. That not only takes more kind of patience and understanding that you probably are born with a lot of racist thoughts too that you have to unlearn. I think that's just a lot to ask for people, and people are more inclined because it's just, I think, psychologically easier to ignore that and just ignore people's suffering. I think that's why it's become more popular, because there's this campaign of like that's common sense. When it's really not common sense, it's just lack of empathy and kind of like what's the word? Like this is gonna sound so funny because everybody always makes fun of this phrase, but willful ignorance. It is willful ignorance. It is like it's easier to ignore all the injustices and all the systemic racism. It is objectively easier because you just basically put your morals away, you put your empathy away, and you just go about your day. And so I think in recent 2020, especially because of the pandemic, I think people were just pushed to the edge, and a lot of people are more inclined to be like, bro, I'm going to just use common sense and not give a fuck about that. But it's really like unfortunate because if everybody really took the time to think about like what is woke and what is right to kind of like agree with, I think that they would see that it's good to be woke and it's good to understand that you're born with certain privileges. Other people are born with more privileges. Other people are born with less privileges. But I think that's where the shift comes. Because I think, I'm telling you, it used to be, people used to think that being left-leaning and being progressive specifically was easy. That it was just, I don't see color and I don't judge people based on how they live their life. Yeah. But really, when you...
there's a lot of effort that goes into it.
There's a lot more effort that goes into it. And to be conservative, right-leaning is easier. You just basically be ignorant. And even if people give you facts. Like that guy, like we had just seen a clip before the podcast of people debating about immigration. And that guy was like, okay, like, let's meet halfway. Let's say these immigrants are coming here not legally. They're not criminals. They're Americanized. Like they want to assimilate. Like, would you be okay with them immigrating? And he was still like, no. Because it doesn't matter. Like, you could be ignorant and you can live your life knowing that your morals are put away.
Yeah, but, like, I get what you're saying. Yeah. But, like, to actually care, there's a lot of work that goes into
exactly. It. Yeah. Like, I'm telling you, like, that study that says that people who are more likely to be, I think, like, woke are also more likely to be depressed. Yeah. Because it just makes sense. Obviously, you're going to know, like, the suffering in the world. Like, and to be conservative, you're like, I don't care. I'm not interested in learning. So I think that's where it comes from. I think that's why celebrities, and it's super popular right now.
You think it hit like critical mass?
I think
for a while it was relatively easy in the sense that not a lot of people were even willing to say that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So all you had to do is, I don't see color. I don't see. I don't care who you marry. Yeah. You know, it was very easy to be like progressive, but then it gets to a point where it's like, okay, cool, like let's do something about it, right? Yeah. And then everybody's like, whoa, yeah, I don't know about that.
There's a lot more effort for sure, and I think there's also this kind of like internalized journey that I think in order to be progressive, you have to go on, because you have to. A lot of people are born with just racist ideologies, and it's not necessarily a fault of the person themselves because they were just raised that way in their environment.
For sure.
But then to be progressive,
for sure,
you have to make that journey of like, I am genuinely the problem. Yeah. Like I am. And I think for a lot of people, even beyond, I guess, like political ideology, I think that mental journey is hard for people. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people can look to themselves and be like, this is because of me.
Yeah, for sure. You're 100% right. I feel like it's difficult to look at yourself and say like, all right, I see that there's a racist tendency there, or that there's a system,
homophobic,
or some whatever it is that you were born with, or the culture around you, or the family structure around you might have instilled in you. Yeah, for sure, it's hard to kind of to look at yourself and be like, fuck, like I have to change that. Because I think it's at a certain point, and then it becomes a responsibility to unlearn it or teach yourself not to be that way. Or to introduce yourself to information or facts, or open your mind to like the perspectives of these people who have been oppressed. And that is a responsibility, but I don't think everybody wants that responsibility. Mm-hmm. You know, it is a lot of effort. I don't think that's an excuse to not do it.
No, of course.
I still think that your explanation as to why I agree a lot.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it recently because I thought the same thing too. Like I 100% agree with you. I don't know where the switch was. I remember growing up, and I remember people being super aggressive, celebrities specifically being super progressive, and it being kind of like cherished and like championed. And then in recent memories, I feel like it's so easy to come that a celebrity comes out and they're actually like super conservative. Like
Yeah.
I love Trump and like
Yeah.
I'm for the party of common sense or whatever.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was like, but like, I guess this is because I was just thinking, I was like, but what makes it common sense? And then that's where I kind of dove into like, oh, I get why
Yeah.
they think it's common sense. It's not
Yeah.
truthfully. I don't think it's common sense. I think it's just easier like to just do. So they
Yeah.
think of it as common sense.
Yeah. Makes
Yeah,
well,
right.
Well
I
said.
think for celebrities, it's also like they just follow the trends.
Yeah.
True. And
Well,
they're the
So,
epitome of trends.
I mean, for a good while, ever since like Obama, it was just like, oh, what's the trend to go to,
Yeah.
and it's to be progressive. And I think now, especially with Trump being for rich people, I think even more they're like, I love this guy.
Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, he's a celebrity president himself.
Yeah,
He's one of them.
Everybody probably knew him. People hung out with him.
Well, too, I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of ignorance here. I feel like there's a little bit more. Nah, I shouldn't say that. I was gonna say I feel like for celebrities now to kind of speak out, I see a lot of consequence,
Yeah,
like for them now. Again, I don't think that absolves them from their duty of doing that, but I feel like you see people getting fired or being blacklisted from doing things,
yeah.
or being afraid to speak out because of that kind of things. So
Well, that's why there was that whole thing with Kehlani and
Yeah.
why what is it, Macklemore
yeah,
came out and spoke up about
Oh,
it
yeah.
because he was like, because I think her concert or something got canceled.
yeah,
Like she was gonna do a performance or something,
Sorry.
and it got canceled. And everybody said that it was because she's very pro Palestine,
yeah,
and she's always
Mm.
speaking out about it. Like she's made music videos about it. And so people were like, oh, they're trying to just shut her down because of that.
yeah.
And then that's when Macklemore came out and was like, we shouldn't be letting like artists or
Yeah.
anybody get shut down just because of
Yeah.
what they're being outspoken about.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess also like in relation to like why I bring it up, I guess what really kind of one of the things that really like made me be like, damn, what happened? I thought like when did this switch happen was when the Dodgers said you had to go into the White House. Because I'm telling you, I remember 2016, 2020, I feel like a lot of people would have been like, yeah, we're not going to fucking go. And a lot of them didn't, right? The Braves didn't go. And so I feel like for them to suddenly just, and this isn't a continuation of what we talked about. We've already talked about them to death. I'm just observing it of how they were all like, yeah, we're done, whatever. And then Otani shaking his hand and all the people taking pictures with him and they're giving him a
Jersey.
jersey. Just at face value, I was just shocked of like, what happened? Like I
Yeah.
thought he wasn't cool. I thought
mean-
nobody liked him. And
I
all of
mean,
a
I guess
sudden-
it does seem like
Yeah.
there's a little more fear in like there will be a consequence if you don't do this certain thing, right?
Yeah.
Like people
Yeah, I get you.
speculate that like, which like I still don't get, but like, because this was directly from MLB telling them to go. Like you
Yeah.
guys have to go.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like whatever it was that they were probably threatening them with. They were probably like, it's gonna harm my paycheck.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like, and again, this isn't me calling anybody out, but I feel like the fan base got over it pretty quick.
yeah.
I feel like the stadium still looks sold out to me. You
Mhm.
know, nobody really cares that much
Mhm.
anymore. And yeah, that's what I was just observing of like, damn.
I mean, and we
Like, just-
said that nothing was really gonna happen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy how quickly it like just did a 180 and all of a sudden it's like cool and the super like I don't know mainstream thing to be.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always bring up Obama's presidency because I felt like that's where, as far as the U.S. history, like on paper, I think was the most progressive it had ever been because we had a black president. And then obviously, I'm not saying that Obama himself obviously didn't do negative things. Like obviously, he still had his war crimes and he still did all his things. But I'm just saying, on paper, it was probably the most progressive thing that America had seen at the time. And because of that, I think we had this little era of kind of progressiveness where progressiveness was really championed. But I think that when it wasn't that it switched kind of 180, it was more of like most of America's history was actually what we see now. And just for that little era, it kind of switched. And then, and in a weird way, in the same way that when you hold a bottle or something filled with air underwater and then it pops back up, I think it just popped back up tenfold.
Yeah.
Because a majority of America's history has been conservatism, racism, and all around just kind of regressive.
Well, and then we also know that there was, of course, like the studies coming out, right, that in 2050, the majority was going to be now the minority, right? There was going to be less white people. And I think there was that fear of like, we're losing our country, right? There was that fear of like the minority now being the majority.
That's fucking
and so,
mind-blowing to me.
And that was a study, right? That
I
was a
remember
study
that. I think we even talked about it. Like,
we talked about it. It was on, I think, Jimmy Fallon, The Tonight Show.
Yeah, I think so.
He reads it on The Tonight Show, and the crowd cheers, obviously, right?
Oh, yeah, and he's like
well, okay. I think that's insane because that's obviously like what they were afraid of, right?
Yeah.
Of, oh shit, we're gonna be the minority, and we haven't been so kind to minorities, right?
Yeah. So then, I think that's
putting
also,
it lightly.
I think that's also the crazy part is that then they're well aware of how they treat people who are, you know, in these minority groups.
Yeah.
Because that's how scared they were. They were so scared that they were like, we need to get somebody to go in and like fight against them, which they all voted was Trump. Yeah. Right. And so then that's how everything kind of came to be. But yeah, I just feel like, I don't know. I think with what you guys are saying, it's just like, it's just easier. And I think right now people are seeing like this trend of like, this is the side that you need to be on.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I think your assessment is 100% accurate of how it's always, like, obviously America's always been regressive and to put it lightly, not kind to minorities. Yeah. But I guess there was a point, at least, I mean, maybe it was like coming from a perspective of privilege, where I felt like we had hit like a baseline. Yeah. At least, you know, that's how I visualize it in history. Is like, all right, we climb up this step and we're good here. And we've got to climb the next step and the next step and the next step and so on and so forth. I thought we had made it towards this one step of like, okay, these are the issues that we're going to be focusing on now. Yeah. We've made it to the baseline, you know, gay marriage is legalized, you know.
Abortion is legalized.
Abortion is legalized. Or for the most part, we're getting somewhere a little bit. And then, or at least it seems like society in general has a collective consensus of what's right and wrong and what direction we want to go in. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you blink and it's like, oh, we're way back down here again. They're trying to go after gay marriage. They're sending people to Guantanamo Bay. You know, it's just
and
insane.
Then they reverse the amendment for abortion to be federally legal.
Yeah, or like even just in small like observations. I feel like there was a time where we would put out a reel. I feel, again, saying something relatively innocuous, not to me, harmless. Something I don't think is that crazy of a take. And at that time, everybody's like 100% cool. I agree. Now, flipped. It seems like even the most tame thought that we have, nobody's in agreement.
Let's not be so harsh.
Let's not be so harsh. Let's you guys have no idea what you're talking about. This and that. And that's not even to say like, oh, like it makes me sad or anything. I mean, yeah, it does, but like the point I'm trying to get at is the observation of what a shift and
the observation, and then not even just like on a law basis of like how we've regressed, like with them overturning the abortion rights and all the other stuff. With just in people, with just society itself. Yeah. Within just the way people think and act and treat each other.
I think to me sometimes part of it, I think in more of like the government and politically, I think it just became like we just chilled. Like we just started chilling like after Obama and all that stuff. I think we were just like, because people were like, oh, racism is over, right? When the whole Obama thing happened. And I think people just kind of relaxed and they were just like, And I think it's in that same mindset of when Trump was gonna get elected or reelected, and they were like, he's not gonna do those things. Like,
Yeah.
they're not gonna allow him. It was kind of like we just kind of didn't put up a fight anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing of like, there's people who generally have been fighting for this for a while, and they kind of all just gave up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, might as well just go with them since everybody else is agreeing with them.
Can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Do
agree.
you think?
go-
Do you
go ahead.
think that it's like this is not permanent in the sense that it lasts forever, but more like this is an era that's here to stay. Kind of like when people talk about like the 80s or the 50s, where it's like an era of what do you call it? There's a name for it. We learned it in movies, 80s and the 50s, where there's kind of like censorship, pro-America, like
Yeah.
very,
Just like era, I guess you could just
yeah.
say.
Do you think this is a like an era, or do you think this is a short-lived, like kind of defiance of that?
It feels like, I don't know. I feel like this, I guess, era or whatever has really damaged whatever's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
And that's not to say like, and we're never going to get out of this. I think we are. I just think that this is a whole new mindset that I feel like, in the same way of how everything in the past has kind of come back, I think in the same way, whoever the next generation is, it's going to be grown in this sort of mentality as well. So I think there's going to be some sort of damage in that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how severe it'll be though.
I mean, I like to believe that this era isn't here to stay. I could see it only ending with something with the president, like something. I think the only way that people learn is the hard way.
Yeah.
So it'd have to be something that truly betrays the trust of everybody who seems to be on President Trump's side. It'd have to be something he does. I don't know what that would be. I can't tell the future, but I think that in my opinion, we're gonna see it at the end of his presidency for this one, because he keeps teasing the third term. And even if he doesn't have a third term, I think no matter what, I don't think it's gonna be a quiet transition of power.
Yeah.
I think the first one obviously was not quiet. I can't imagine what the sequel will be. Right, sequel's
Yeah.
always bigger and louder.
flashier. Though.
Yeah. So who knows? I just know that we're only in the first
I
year.
guess it's
So
also
we'll
just
see.
a little scary to think about it, because it's like I think there's already enough that he's done that's already harmful and like super dangerous and just really, really just horrible.
Yeah.
And it's just like, even those things are not enough for his own people. So I wonder what it is that will cause them to like be like, no, this is too far. Because I already feel like what he's doing is too far. But like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm part of those communities.
Fuck it, Mexico it is.
I have that, you know, that like empathy towards those groups.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, I think he's already has it, but who knows what his own people think would be too far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, true.
Which I think is like horrible in itself, because it's like it really took them that long to realize how bad of a person or how
Yeah.
horrible of a person he is.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think it'll be surprising because I mean we keep talking about it. We keep like foreshadowing it, and maybe when something does happen,
I guess
we'll look back on this and be like, "Bro, we called it."
Another reason I bring it up is I feel like there's people that I've come across who I feel, or just in the general, what do you call it, the population, just in the day to day, where I feel like I've come across more and more people who have more and more favorable views of that guy.
Yeah.
Where again, I felt like it used to be like one guy maybe you would come across, and he was obviously a bit nutty. I think they're all a bit nutty, honestly. But I feel like I've come across a lot of people who are like, I mean, he's not that bad. You know, I mean, I think he's cool.
Which is so weird because it's like
Yeah.
he hasn't done anything beneficial and he hasn't done anything different from the first one.
Yeah.
But inflation is still up. Like even beyond like obviously my own things that I have the biggest grasp with, but obviously the way he kind of treats people in our community,
Yeah.
Mexican Americans. But even beyond that, on a like politics, like an actual policy level, his policies are not good. He gave up the tariffs thing. He went back to the, I think only like 40% or 20% on China, and then China lowered it. So he caved. Like, what is there to like?
Yeah.
Like, I don't like. I'm not even saying that as a hater. I'm as a genuine question. What is he doing good? Because it doesn't seem like he is. Like, I don't know. It just blows my mind. But I mean, kind of moving on a little bit. I'm sure our audience has heard, and I'm sure you guys have heard about the first Afrikaners. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so.
First Afrikaners arrive in U.S. under radically redrawn refugee program. Did you guys hear about this?
Yeah, they're South Africans, right?
Yeah, they're South Africans. Do you know why they were granted asylum in the United States?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard too much about it, honestly.
It was about, and this is just off my head, but I know it's in here too. I had read it earlier. It was they said that they're being persecuted because of their race. That in Africa, there's currently this prejudice where the farmers are being murdered specifically because they are white. So it fits the boxes as to them getting asylum in the United States. Let me read specifically what. Yeah. Okay. So Trump, his South African-born advisor, Elon Musk, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio have all been vocal about what they say is persecution of Afrikaners, many of whom are farmers, faced in South Africa. And they said, what's happening in South Africa fits the textbook definition of why the refugee program was created. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller told reporters last week, this is persecution based on a protected characteristic, in this case race. This is a race-based persecution. Miller doubled down on the administration's efforts to limit the broader refugee program. The U.S. refugee program has been a catastrophic failure, he said of past administrations' applications of the program. Trump's changes, he continued, are an example of the president returning the refugee program to what it was intended to do. That's mainly the biggest outrage. If you guys pull up a picture, if you guys can see them, they are a white family. Their kids have blonde hair, and so a lot of people have big gripes with this because other refugees and other people who have tried to get asylum in the United States have either been denied it or have been demonized by the presidency as unwanted citizens or unwanted individuals. And so a lot of people say this is just racism, as simple as it can be. They favor the white refugees over the brown or people of color refugees. And especially along with, and it relates to what we were just saying about how the Conservative Party seems to really, really be afraid of white people becoming the minority. It makes sense that the presidency would be more welcoming and fast track immigrants who are white because they want to increase the white number. And it isn't even like it's weird. I guess because saying that they want to increase the white number to me gives off this air of like as if like I'm trying to make it a race thing, but they're the one who made it a race thing. Do you get what I'm saying? But first reactions, what do we think? What do you guys think?
I mean, like you said, I think it's I think it's just racism at that point. I mean, considering the way they talk about other immigrants or other refugees, because when his infamous "they're eating the dogs" quote, wasn't that specifically towards refugees?
Yeah, it was towards
it was a specific branch of immigrants that they're from Haitians, right? I just feel like the demonization towards one, probably based on color, and then the open arms welcoming to the others just because they're white, I think is insane.
I just think it's just really fucked up because I don't know. It's in the same thing of how I say that he seems like he just wants to like rage people and like just showing how I don't know. It sometimes feels like he is being very malicious about it. Like it seems like he's like dangling it in their face of like, because you're not white, I'm not gonna help you.
Yeah.
Like that's just what it feels like. It just feels like it's very all intentional.
Yeah. He went on to say, the State Department spokesperson said, "Today, the United States sends a clear message in alignment with the administration's America First foreign policy agenda that America will take actions to protect victims of racial discrimination. To be eligible for resettlement consideration, individuals must be one from South African nationality, two African or ethnicity or member of racial minority in the country, which obviously it's Africa, so white people are a minority." And must be able to articulate a past experience of persecution or fear of future persecution. I agree with you, and I want to be like he is rage baiting because he's like you're right, like we should protect minorities from persecution, like the white minorities in Africa who are persecuted. And it's so crazy because like I don't know too much, but I do know a little bit about like just history. Like they're farmers because of like their descendants of like colonial settlers who were there. So like they are from an oppressive rich group, and it sucks that like most other refugees don't have those luxuries. They don't have near the amount of money, near the amount of privileges that they have, and yet those people are fast tracked and allowed to be here and not demonized with welcome like open arms. It's so sad because like in a weird way, I almost wish Trump just said it was because they're white. Like, on all this bullshit about like trying to rage bait, like it's about ethnicities. It's obviously for white because you guys want more white people in here because you guys feel like white people are becoming the more minority. You guys don't feel like you guys are becoming the minority.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of things that I like.
It's a lot. It's a layered issue.
I mean, I think, like, just based on what I'm hearing, like, what I'm hearing about how he's saying, like, it's a racial thing. And he's essentially saying white people are being racially discriminated against. I have no idea like the history of South Africa. I'm not gonna pretend like I do. I believe you because how else white people gonna end up in Africa, right? But I think that obviously in and of itself is wrong. But I think that aside, the president bringing up this precedent, or at least it feels like he's setting the precedent of white people can be discriminated against.
Yeah.
Or you can be racist towards white people, which isn't true. You can't be racist towards white people. Or like, I think it's a dangerous like idea that I feel like he's flirting with of white people are this oppressed. We're the oppressed ones, actually.
Yeah.
We're the ones who are oppressed in history.
Yeah.
You guys aren't. You guys are oppressing us. You guys are being racist towards us just because we're white. I think that's a dangerous thing to be playing around with. And obviously, I think he knows what he's doing. I'm sure they all know what they're doing.
No, 100%.
Like,
he knows what he's doing.
it seems like we've seen this in history, you know. That's my reaction to that. I think setting up this idea that there's white racism, you know.
Yeah.
I almost like, I don't know. Like, I know it's
he
almost
said
like,
he said that it's a white genocide happening in Africa.
He said that?
Yeah, he said that. He said it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place. And farmers are being killed.
Why doesn't he do anything about the genocide he's funding towards brown people?
I know, right? He says they happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy.
Well, it's weird because it's almost like this ironic, like, thing that's happening.
That's why he has to be self-aware, right?
No,
how like
sure. I mean, at least
he's being satirical.
But it's weird because it's like he's literally bringing in white people, and it's almost like he's literally like bringing in the embodiment of introducing the idea that you can be racist towards white people. Do you remember in we bring up The Boys where what's the chick who's a Nazi? Stormfront?
Yeah, Stormfront.
And she talks to Homelander's son, and she's like, it's called white genocide. And it's yeah. So I think that to me is what goes on in my head of oh shit. Is that what he's trying to kind of what's
imply?
the word? And not just imply, but like introduce or
I get you.
Or make more comfortable, make more common.
Honestly, yeah. Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's exactly it. You know there's this church moving more into the story. I think they're called the Epscotch.
Yeah.
You heard about it? The Episcopal Church. ends refugee partnership. I don't know if you knew about this, but there was this church who had a partnership with the government where they would help refugees kind of get settled here in the United States. Like they would find like a place with them.
Yeah.
And they ended their partnership with the government to resettle refugees, citing a moral opposition to the resettling of white Afrikaners. They said that they felt it has been painful to watch one group of refugees selected in a highly unusual manner receive preferential treatment over many others who have been waiting at refugee camps or dangerous conditions for years. They wrote most Reverend Sean Rowe, the presiding bishop of the church, citing that others, including the Afghans and the Christians fleeing persecution, have been denied refugee. Trump, his South African, and then I read that, and they were just like, it's the white genocide. But isn't that crazy that this church said that they ended their partnership because they just were so hurt that they obviously gave it to them because they were white.
Yeah.
And they were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So it goes to show you that like even people from all over the political spectrum are like, what the fuck?
Well, what are they getting?
The refugees, the Afrikaners.
Yeah.
Let me see if what specifically are they getting? You mean like I know they get granted asylum here. Let me see. The 59 Afrikaners, descendants of the mainly Dutch colonists, underwent expedited reviews that took months, were brought to the U.S. on a government-chartered flight, and were greeted at Dulles International Airport by federal officials, all unconventional steps for the refugee resettlement program, which can take years to process. Families on Mondays arrived at the airport with their luggage. Children donned pajamas and carried small American flags and stuffed animals as their parents walked them through a private airplane hangar. Troy Edgar, Deputy Homeland Security Secretary, and Christopher Landau, the Deputy of Secretary of State, greeted the family, shaking hands and posing for photos. Welcome to America, Landau told the families. I want you to know that you are really welcome here. Bruh. He really is rage. They gotta be rage baiting. This has to be satirical. Is this an article from The Onion? But their admission to the U.S. has drawn scrutiny from resettlement agencies in the U.S. who have faced sharp budget, resource, and personal cuts since Trump took office. Among his first executive actions, Trump temporarily paused the refugee resettlement program. Various agencies, including the State Department, have also paused dispersing funding for critical services such as home, job, and school assistance. So that's what they get. They get home, job, and school assistance. The Afrikaners are poised to receive. The pause sent the refugee resettlement agencies into turmoil as refugees already cleared to arrive in the U.S. received notice their flights had been canceled. Damn, that's crazy. Among those left in limbo were Afghans who worked with the U.S. military, a move that some Republicans have criticized. Judges have ordered the government to at least resume the refugee program for those who have already been approved to travel, but the administration is currently fighting the court order. When asked whether the administration would reopen the broader refugee resettlement program, Landau told reporters it was still an ongoing consideration.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But that's what Julie, to answer your question, that's what they're poised to receive. It says home, job, and school assistance. So basically a place to stay, a job, and a place for the kids to go to school. That's basically what they're receiving. Was that the question you were asking? Yeah.
I thought they would get more stuff. That's why. Because I thought I had been seeing that they actually get more stuff.
Let me see. Let me do. Let's see. They are getting refugee status. Resettlement. The U.S. is providing assistance for these Afrikaners, including helping with finding housing, furnishing, other essential items. Let's see. What are other essential items? Oh, but it's the New York Times. They're about to fucking paywall me. I already know. As far as I know, that's what I can find. I can't find anything else beyond housing, school, and jobs.
Yeah. Which is a lot.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself is a lot.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I can't even find a job here, but they're easily given jobs.
Yeah. Job training and social services. Refugees are provided with temporary housing, often in hotels, while local organizations assist them in finding long-term housing. They are also expected to find work and support themselves with guidance on finding entry-level jobs in fields like warehousing, manufacturing, and customer service. While some may be able to continue farming, they have the necessary credentials. They are expected to adapt to American society and find employment opportunities. Yeah, that's about as much as I can find of like what they get. But crazy, no?
Yeah, very crazy. Yeah.
They fast tracked them in front of everybody else. People who had been waiting for years.
Yeah.
That's so sad, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's weird because like they made it a race thing. Like
Yeah.
they made it a race thing. The
Yeah.
presidency. I mean, I guess that's the United States, right? They always make it a race thing.
Yeah. 100%.
They were like, "You guys are welcomed here, very much."
That's the part. That part I was, where the Secretary of State, I think it was like, you guys are welcomed here with open arms. Really, really.
Yeah.
Why just them? But yeah, other refugees and other immigrants who come here are criminals, rapists, and eat dogs.
Yeah.
That's the type of rhetoric that I hear when those people come here.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
But I guess moving on.
I have you guys heard about the people talking about black fatigue?
No.
No, you haven't heard about that.
Mm-mm.
I think it's in response to what we talked about last week, which was the woman who's raising a $1 million to save herself after being caught calling a 5-year-old the N-word. There's like a TikTok creator, and she's talking about basically saying, like, kind of trying to justify what happened. And she was saying that this is happening because white people are getting black fatigue, which is essentially white people blaming black people for racism, saying that people are they're just tired of black behavior, ghetto behavior, and that they just don't want to put up with it anymore. So it's black fatigue. And there's been a lot of white people on TikTok talking about that, or saying that that's a real thing. Obviously, people are upset about that because you're just blaming black people for racism.
Yeah.
Just saying like, it's
your fault.
It's your fault that I'm racist. It's the way that you act. I'm not racist. I'm just reacting to how you are.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I just think that's really unfair to say that, because it's like they didn't ask to be here.
Yeah.
They weren't brought here. Like, they were living their own lives in a different place. And
Yeah.
like, but now all of a sudden everything is their fault. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I also, yeah. So that's one of the things that I've, even though I haven't heard black fatigue in and of itself, I've heard kind of that like messaging of, there's something culturally that black Americans need to change, so that way they can be more loved and we can integrate with them and whatever. Like, people try and rationalize their racism by blaming it on black people. And I've always just thought, like, but bro, just like look at history. Like, literally just look at history. Like, how would you feel if your ancestors were brought here, and not only were brought here, but weren't even seen as like a full developed human with rights? And then when they finally were like, oh wait, they're humans and were given quote unquote equal rights, they still had Jim Crow laws, and they weren't given any benefits by the government. They were slaves. Like, how are you gonna like build up from that? Like, what benefit do you have? Like, obviously, you're going to grow up and you're going to not have the best resources around you, not have the best neighborhood around you. And then somehow it's their fault still that, like, there's things about them that you don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because I guess I think about the one that people always bring up, and I think it's so racist, and I think it's so ignorant that people bring it up. But they're like, why do black people commit so much crime? And they speak on it like as if, like, it's innately in their nature to do that. And it's like, but crime is more of an effect, like a consequence of growing up in a low income, like low resource, underdeveloped neighborhood. And that neighborhood came from decades and decades and hundreds of years of when slavery ended. They had built these ghettos because they weren't given any resources to build anything else. And then that's where, like, kind of the whole culturally, and you're raised and you become, it's a nature versus nurture thing. You obviously grow up in that environment, and that's what you think to do, and that's what you want to do because that's all you've ever known. And to, like, I guess, like, blame it on them, it's so weird because, like, they use, like, kind of this messaging as if they're born innately like that. You get what I mean? Like, as if
Yeah.
like Black Americans are born innately, I guess, more inclined to do crime. But it's really more of like a consequence of hundreds of years of discrimination, racism, systemic racism,
Yeah.
the consequence of ending slavery and not giving them any reparations. Like, I think that's what makes me so annoyed is that like people think in such slow gaps of time. Like, as if like this is only happening now. Like, bro, but slavery ended like hundreds of years ago. Like,
Yeah.
why not just grind and get out of there? Like, why are they all still in the ghettos? Bro, because it's exactly because there was 400 years of slavery. There was nothing you could do except literally like not make anything. And then they didn't give them anything when it ended. And like to then like criticize the culture of like, I can't believe you guys act like that. It's like, bro, but that's just an effect. That's a consequence of what like history has brought in the United States, like what the United States has happened in their history. So I don't know. That's just what I think about. Like, I've never heard of the Black fatigue thing, but like whenever people are saying that, they try to blame their racism on it's because you guys act that way. It's like, but why? But like that's not their fault. Like it's not their fault, and they're not innately born criminals. Like nobody's innately born criminal. Does criminality happen more often in low income, undeveloped neighborhoods? Yes. Does it happen specifically because of their race? No. Like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes, bro. Like it's just so crazy that people like genuinely think that way.
Yeah. Well, I think in also like the vocabulary that this woman used, she was saying that they're tired of the, what do you call it? The victim mentality, which you already addressed. And then she said, I think just in general, calling it fatigue is like saying like, I can tolerate you no longer.
Yeah.
I've only been tolerating you.
Yeah.
I haven't been accepting you.
I just think it's really annoying because it's like how Stevie said, like they were slaves for 400 years, right? And they were taken from a place with which that's like generations, right? That's generation on generation on like at some point their old culture got lost, so they had to build a new one. But they had to build a new one with the only low resources that they had. Like, and so, and then that's just 400 years, right, of them doing consistently the same thing. And then when they're freed, it's kind of like, well, we don't have anything. So they still have to create their own culture with nothing. And then it's just like that gets passed down along the rest of the time. And that's not like, it's not like anything ended then. Like still you hear about segregation, right? That still happened. There's still a lot of things that like were put into place and families had to get used to doing, right? So that's another continuation of raising the rest of the generation. And that's kind of like, that's just who they are because those are the circumstances that they were put in. Like, it's not their own fault. Like, again, like they were brought here against their own wills. Like, and I think that's just very unfair. And it's just so annoying that people treat them so horribly still. And like people can say that, oh, I'm tired of them victimizing themselves. But it's like, who put them there? Like, who has done all these things to them that is completely unfair? Like what they've gone through and they're still continuing to do. Like still nowadays, there's still that racism. There's still those injustices towards them. Like it's still very unfair to say all those things.
Yeah, and I also think like the whole like victim mentality and like trying to like demonize like you just want to be a victim. There's this beautiful video that I once saw on my For You page where it's like everybody's always like you just want to be a victim, you just want to be a victim. Okay, but sometimes you are a victim. Like and there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's nothing wrong with being a victim. Like sometimes they were literally oppressed for hundreds of years. Like are we seriously going to demonize that? Oh, like oh my god, you guys just like want us to feel bad so fucking bad. And then on top of that, and I do think it's like it is a racist issue, and I do think it is a colorist issue because I think that they demonize like black people, but yet they are addicted to black culture. Like they'll demonize if a black person is speaking in Av, but I bet you they'll speak in Av all fucking day. You know, like I think the culture in of itself is celebrated, but the people is what gets demonized. And I think that's why I do think it's a racist issue because this whole like black fatigue or other messaging that talks about stuff like that, it's like you have a problem specifically with black people. I bet you any other race, I bet you if white people were acting the same way that you have all the problems with black people, you would not have the same energy. I genuinely think it's because of the color of the skin, and it's because you have undertones of racism in you. It has nothing to do with the fact of how they're actually acting. Because obviously black culture gets stolen all the time. And it gets celebrated and acted as if like, oh, it's brand new. Like there's so many people who talk in Av nowadays.
I've also heard about like the whole victim mentality, which I think is like so horrible to say, especially to black people, where they're like, you should forget about it because you're not the one who went through it. Those were your ancestors. Like, you should let it go. You should learn how to like let go of all of that. But it's like it's that plus just like the continuation of right now, what's currently going on, right? All the racism that they go through. I mean, it's you know, the police brutalities that is experienced and like talked about, like just a lot of injustices that happens within that community, and people are just like, you should just let it go, like you should just forget about it. But it's like, no, because it's like people are still getting killed, like innocent people are being killed just for the color of their skin. And I think people being so like, don't be a victim or don't act like you're still a victim of like this, but it's like it's more than just that. It's like what is still happening now. And I think that's just like, it just makes me so sad because it's always like, I think they've dealt with so much and they continue to deal with so many other things. And for people to just be like we're tired of this, we're tired of that, I think it's just, I don't know. It's just so annoying.
But this is kind of interesting because it relates to the beginning of this podcast, how we were talking about how like to be woke is very effort, like there's a lot of effort put in it, and like there's a lot of internalized there's a lot of progress you have to make with your inner self, and I think it relates because like I know you talked about how they even have what is it, Latino fatigue or something.
That was the search bar. And
to me it always seems like, and it's such a deep thought that I feel like a lot of people can't really digest, but it's like a lot of what we deem as like nice and like proper professional is a Eurocentric ideology. And so in reality, like the whole like, you know, I just wish Mexicans or I wish black people wouldn't act so ghetto or wouldn't be so proud of it. But inherently, there's nothing wrong with being that way. There's nothing wrong with being quote unquote ghetto. The only thing that's wrong is that it doesn't fit the Eurocentric ideology. So therefore, if it isn't white, it's not right. Like, I think that's the biggest thing that I see in this whole black Latino fatigue think pieces. Is that I think it's a very deep thought that's kind of hard to digest for some people, is that even what we see as proper, professional, classy is just a white people ideology. It's just, what is it called? Proximity to whiteness. It's like you're not acting like how white people culturally do, so therefore you're acting wrong. When there's not necessarily anything inherently wrong with being quote unquote ghetto or being quote unquote, I don't know. Well, I don't even know what's the opposite of being a Eurocentric ideology. I guess like a decolonized ideology, I would say. Right.
That's how it reminds you in that same thing of like when it used to be very harsh of like whether you had tattoos or piercings. It was like, oh, they saw you as like being a criminal or being like unprofessional because you have all these things on your body. But in reality, it's going against, you know, because a lot of people like there's, you know, natives, there's a lot of people who have just indigenous features, indigenous cultures, parts of it. And it was just to prevent them from getting, you know, jobs and all these different things, just to like judge them for what they have and what their culture kind of brought. And I think that's just very in the same thing of what you're saying. Like they want you to be pure, right? They want you to be like this sort of clean person. But it's kind of like,
it's like a Eurocentric. That's a perfect example that you honestly just brought up because it's so true. Like historically, a lot of indigenous tribes used forms of tattooing or used forms of piercing, and it was something culturally. It wasn't seen as professional. It was actually something ceremonial or something beautiful to look at. But in Europe, in Eurocentric, you never saw people with tattoos or any types of piercings. And so when society eventually hundreds of years had developed, it was seen as more classy, more professional to not have piercings or tattoos. when there's nothing inherently unprofessional about it,
Yeah.
right? Why is it unprofessional? Is it because it doesn't fit that Eurocentric standard? And that's mainly all it is.
Yeah.
Because I mean, tattoos don't mess with your brain. They don't mess with your ability to think or do tasks. Your
Yeah.
piercings don't get in the way unless you're like doing something, I guess, with metals. But for most part, most jobs have nothing to do with anything like that. Like the only like tattoos and piercings are about as decolonized as you can get when it comes to like your outer expression. So that's just a really good example. That's just a really good example of what basically I was saying.
To make it easier, I guess, for
Yeah.
people to understand.
Yeah, but that's perfect. That's literally perfect. Like, what the fuck is unprofessional about my tattoos? Is it because long ago, but the white race didn't have any tattoos, and therefore that's what's actually beautiful and right and professional and classy? But I guarantee you, if the Mexica or any of the indigenous tribes had fully won against the Spaniards when they first came, I bet you it would be almost unprofessional not to have tattoos or piercings. Who knows? Obviously, that's just speculation.
Yeah.
But obviously, it was so normalized, and we see in paintings and sculptures that it was just common to have piercings or to have marks of your tribe. Like, it was very accepted.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of traditions that I've heard about, especially people when they have like the lines in their faces. Like, it means certain things in certain cultures. So in that way, I'm just like, people always see them as bad, but in reality, they're actually just part of people's culture.
Yeah. This is just to say, don't let people shit on you for your tattoos, unless they're really, really bad and you regret them. Then it's okay. As long as you're okay with them, then that's all you kind of need. But don't let people shit on them.
Unless they're offensive.
Unless, that's what I mean. Unless they're offensive. Unless you feel ashamed, then maybe cover it up. But for the most part, especially if you're of indigenous ancestry, wear them tattoos and piercings with pride. Am I right? Right?
Yeah.
This and that about does it, folks. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody thought that was funny. Sorry.
If I had the left button, I would.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's too far.
But I guess to move on, or Brian, do you have anything closing thoughts on the black fatigue?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Sorry, I was yapping on this one. It's because it's because I have X. It's because I still have X. So I'd be seeing like
Twitter.
True. Twitter. I still have Twitter. And so I sometimes see shit like that where it'll be like a white dude being like, I would love black people more if they didn't act this certain way, or they bring up like crime rates or some shit. And I'm like, you don't even pick up a fucking textbook or just think, bro. Yeah. Just think. Yeah. Literally just think. Think about what the fuck you're saying. Like, oh my God. Anyways, Julie, but you brought something for the table this week. What did you bring?
So I don't know if you guys have heard, but it's about a woman who's being kept alive because she's pregnant. Have you guys heard of it?
I had not heard of it.
So the family says that a woman has been declared brain dead, but her pregnancy continues under the state law. So her name is Adriana Smith. And I think when she went into the hospital, she had like something happened, but basically they couldn't save her. So now she's just brain dead. But she's been on life support for 90 days now, because they found that there was a heartbeat she was pregnant. I think she was like 9 weeks pregnant.
Damn.
And so then they discovered that there was a heartbeat. And this is in Georgia. So under Georgia's heartbeat bill, it bans abortions after a fetal heartbeat.
Damn.
So essentially, yeah. So she's being kept alive, but there was no consent from the family to continue to do that. The fetus, was only 8 weeks, but now she's been on life support for 90 days. The family is still paying the medical bills. And then they're saying that the fetus does have problems. Like it's already, like contacting different things that are already wrong with, just because, it's in a basically dead body kind of.
Yeah.
And she also has another living child. I think he's like really young. And they still go to visit the daughter in the hospital. And this child, her child, still thinks, he thinks that his mom is just sleeping.
Damn.
Yeah. She was 30 years old as well.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's rough, bro.
So, but yeah, that's something that's currently going on, and people are outraged about it because they're like, well, especially, a lot of women creators that I've been seeing on TikTok have been talking about it because they're just saying that they're just using this woman as like an incubator. And I think, and they believe that this is just very unfair. For one, because it's like they made this choice without her and without her family's consent. And it's kind of like I think everybody's just confused as to why they just want to keep this baby alive when it's already known that it's already having issues within itself. And I think, I don't know, it's just, it sounds very, what would you say?
Dystopian?
Yeah. Like
nightmare fuel?
I mean, people have been saying that it comes from the same thing of, what was it? Handmaid's Tale? Like there was an actual episode that went through the same exact thing. And people think it's interesting because like in that same show, it was a black woman, and currently it's a black woman who's going through this. And I don't know, I just feel like it's just so crazy.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy because it's like So did they know she was pregnant when she became Brenda?
I think they knew she was pregnant.
Oh, so she was willingly having a kid.
I think so.
Okay. Damn. Damn. Yeah, that's rough, dude. Because I guess I was thinking about it as like, oh, did they find out when she became brain dead?
Well, the way that they make it seem is that they knew that she was, at least on the different videos that I've seen. What also is kind of weird, which I only caught it because of the comments. People were saying that they keep showing a picture of her where she's like fully pregnant, but everybody says that that's from her first pregnancy. So the way that the news kind of reports it is that it makes it seem like she was fully like pregnant. But people are like, no, she was only like 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's still a long time for her, or like for them to kind of keep it alive.
Yeah, it is definitely almost like an existential dread scenario, because if the mother is, well, her body is obviously still alive, but her brain is gone, and therefore her sense of like awareness is gone. She's kind of like a human incubator, which in a way is like horrific to think that you could, even in death, quote unquote, because she's brain dead, could still be used as like an object. Like that's why I wanted to ask you, like, I guess as a woman, how does that even, like, how do you wrap your mind around that?
Yeah, I don't know. To me, that's why I'm like, to me, it just seems very like, I don't even know if sinister is the right word, but it just seems so like, I don't know. It just seems so horrible that like she's being kept, well, not kept alive, but her baby's being kept alive in her own body, but her body's completely gone. Like she's gone. And I don't know. It's just, I think that's the part where I can't really like wrap my head on it, because it's just so like how you said, dystopian. Like it's just so weird to like think about. And I also just think it's also just very unfair to the family. Because they even said, the mom, I think it was the mom who was talking about it, who they said that they like proceeded to do all those things of like keeping the baby alive without letting any of the families know that they were going to do that. So the hospital just kind of just did it. They were just like, they discovered that there was a heartbeat. They saw that the mom was dead, and they were like, well, since the mom's dead, we kind of just have the responsibility ourselves to do it. Which is what they took on. And I don't know, it just feels, well, even though like, you know, she's brain dead, it still feels like they're trying to have her have this baby like at her own will. Like, and I think that's the part where it like kind of gets me, because I'm like, but she's gone, you know, like she can't really choose anymore, but they're also still choosing for her even though she's dead. And I think that's the part where it's like, I don't know, it's like in my head it's going in a circle of like, in the same way of like, dead or alive, they're still gonna make a choice for you.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think it's the epitome of like objectification of like the woman body, because it's like she's literally just being kept alive to be used as an object, as a tool. And whether or not that's like her say. So I think it's the epitome of that. And I think that's horrific. That even in death, right? Even in death, you are objectified.
Yeah.
Like obviously, I think people use objectified sometimes like sexually, but like
Yeah.
you could be objectified with anything. But this is quite literally objectified. And I also think my opinion on the matter will change whether or not the baby actually has like a healthy birth,
Yeah.
or because you said there's like possibles. They imply that there's possible complications with its birth, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I think they're saying that like the fetus itself already has like health issues.
even before she died,
Uh,
or just in general.
I think it's starting to have like that. Well, because it's like it's a dead body. There's a lot of like nutrients that it's probably not getting anymore because the mom is dead.
Yeah.
Like, and I also think that if you care about, you know, I guess children who are in the womb or fetuses, I think for you to also think that this is okay for the fetus, I think is even more of like, cause as they're saying, right, and like as we know that moms give, you know, their fetuses nutrients, like they give once they become, you know, older in the months, like there's a lot of things that the mom gives, and the mom is completely like just gone. So it's like I think in that you're also making the child suffer or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's just unfair to both.
Yeah.
And even the family, because then the family is gonna have to deal with all those complications.
Yeah, it seems like a lose-lose. And if the baby ends up like being like stillborn or ends up just like not living that long, I can't help but think like for the husband and the family, just like a very slow and painful like death to their loved ones. Like it just feels like a unnecessary torture.
Yeah, it's
'cause
dehumanizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, to force it, because they're treating her like a human incubator. And I feel like if it's true that the fetus already has complications, I don't know. To me, it just seems like they're doing it for like, I don't know, like a concept to like prove a point or something. And I think that's just so dehumanizing and wrong.
Yeah.
And
You said it
Yeah.
was because of the law, right? In
Yeah,
Louisiana, I think.
in Georgia.
In Georgia,
Yeah.
Louisiana, in Georgia. But I guess it'll show you like the whole like an extreme no abortion ever.
Yeah.
And either
The
scenarios
consequences of
happen.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
scenarios happen.
Yeah.
Exactly like this. Like this woman is literally being used as a tool. And I guess
Yeah.
it's in line with the fucking administration, right? That's kind of the
Yeah.
whole point, is to
Mhm.
think of that women's bodies are simply property.
Yeah. But I think that's even more of itself of like why it's so frustrating and like angering, because it's like even in this situation, right? They're following the law, right? They're following that they can't do an abortion on her, or essentially, right? But it's still just like I don't know. It's just so very I don't know.
It's a man-made horror.
Yeah.
It's a man-made horror, and it all stems from the lack of abortion rights. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty deep. It's actually pretty deep.
Yeah. And this is just one of them, right?
Yeah.
From one of the states that has banned abortions, right?
Yeah.
That we're hearing about.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it'll for sure change based on how the baby is born. I think it'll for sure not change as in like I'll change my opinion, but just in general, I'll be able to elaborate more.
Yeah.
I think it also makes me like a little disgusted by the fact that if this does happen, right, if they're successfully able to have the baby, that they'll be like, then it's possible, you know, that if a woman is pregnant and she dies, like we can still keep those children. And I don't know, there's just something very like gross about that, because then it just seems like we're becoming experiments at this point.
No, I see that. I can see that 100%. Damn, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy. That's just it. Just feels like a dystopian scenario.
Yeah.
Like-
Very, very strange and very scary.
It sounds like a sci-fi like horror novel.
It's just, I don't know,
yeah.
dehumanizing. Where's the humanity, man?
I wonder how the baby will feel when it grows up. Like if the baby ends up living, I wonder how the baby will feel to know that like.
Well, I just think about like the government's not going to step in and pay these people's bills,
Yeah.
these medical bills. If the baby is born and needs all kinds of, medical expenses, and because it's, it was born with a lot of complications, they're not gonna step in and help.
Yeah. But yet they were the ones
They were the
keeping.
ones. They were the ones who were hell bent on everything being born.
Yeah, I think the thing about the family still paying the medical bills, especially when they didn't even consent to this, is even more of like, I don't think they should be allowed, or they should be paying the bills, because at this point, you guys, the hospital is the one who was responsible for saying like, no, keep her alive. And I get it, like, it's their daughter, it's their wife, it's their mom, that you would be like, no, like letting them be responsible for it. But I think at the same time, that's very unfair to the family.
For sure. Yeah. Damn, bro. Well, I hope that, I wouldn't wish death on the baby. I hope that at least the baby ends up living, no complications, and no matter what happens, even if the baby isn't born healthy, I hope the family is okay. Because I mean, they probably didn't really want this, did they?
Yeah.
They probably didn't really want this. So whatever happens, I just hope that they can make peace with it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't their decision, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Especially the kid.
Yeah.
I think the kid is also like her child that she had.
Yeah.
I hope he's okay too.
Yeah. They have my hope. They have my thoughts.
Yeah.
But that about does it, right, guys?
Yeah, that about does it for this episode. We really hope you guys enjoyed the listen. Before we send everybody off, I got to do a shout out to all our patrons. Shout out to Yuel, Eli Quintero, I Am Potato Tot, Stephen Carvajal, Carla Corazon, Altadena Will Rebuild, and Diana Laura. Really appreciate all your guys' patronage. If anybody out there ever wants to join the Patreon, our link is always in the description. Again, we really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.